How many of you wake up every day and create your day? Did you know you have that ability? You have been given the ability to create the day and the environment you live in strictly by your beliefs, strictly by what you think. Science has recently discovered that man is not shaped by his genes, that his genes, which create the protein which forms man, comes from his perception of his environment. They did this research 20 years ago and separated these stem cells, which are generic cells from different animals such as rats, birds, spiders. Wherever they picked up these cells, they were generic, and they put them in these petri dishes. These petri dishes were little closed environments. And if they put in cells of muscle or cells of fat or cells of heart, that's what these stem cells produced. So the environment changed the genetic structure. So what I'm explaining to you helps you realize you're not a victim of your environment. You create your environment by your perception. And if you change the way you see your environment, you'll change the proteins that come on in your body. In other words, when you have a thought, you create a chemical. Proteins are like little lights that flash on and on and off. These genes are connected by your thoughts. So if you wake up and you have the same thoughts every day, you're illuminating the same genes. In other words, you're producing the same proteins. So obviously, if your environment that you've created is going to look like the genes that you have illuminated or have turned on. So if you want to have a different genetic outcome, you need to have a different way of thinking about what you're seeing, thinking about the environment you're in. For example, animals, when they're frightened by some other animal that's chasing it, let's say a tiger is chasing a deer, or another animal in Africa, that animal gets all of this energy out to its limbs. It's called fight or flight in the human being, but in the animal kingdom, it's survival. So they run, and when they feel like they're out of danger, they go back to their same heart rate. They're grazing in the field. They have no stress, no fear. Man is the only creature that can turn on those fear hormones strictly by thought. Your frontal lobe creates these thoughts that your mind and body believe you're in that environment. Your body doesn't know if you're living it now or you're living it from the past. So those stress hormones, those fear hormones can strictly be created by your thought. So you can live in this state of anxiety, frustration, and fear strictly by thinking about it. When you think about it, you turn on those hormones of stress. You turn on those fear hormones, and your body doesn't know if you're living it now or it's something in the memory. So your body and your mind are operating separately, and your thoughts are connected to how you feel. And if you can't think any higher than how you feel, then you're going to live in that state that you've created of hormones of stress, of fear, anxiety, and your body's going to be operating in that fear or flight stage, and all the blood that your organs need to heal itself will go to your extremities so that you can run. This is the condition most people live in, because their environment they've created is an environment of one of survival, of fear, of separation, anxiety. And as long as you're in that state, you're not going to be able to look around at nature that's here. This is the planet that God created, and receive your healing, receive your freedom, receive your peace. You see these trees, you hear these birds, you think they're in anxiety, you think they're in stress? No. They're living in the peace of God. They're living in the harmony of God. That's how you're designed to live. And once you start to separate yourself from the beliefs that you've created in your environment, you will start to experience a different reality. Wake up tomorrow and create your day by a different set of thoughts. Don't be formed by memories of the past. Be creative by thoughts of how you want your day to be, how you want your future to be. You need to be defined by a future you create, not by a fear that you've lived. If you wake up every morning and you just breathe in God's mercy and grace, and you start to become conscious of His mercy and grace in your life, and the more you breathe in that mercy and grace, the more you separate yourself from the conditions of yesterday or the conditions of an emotion that you've attached yourself to. Because the one that created you is the one that sustains you. The one that created you is the one that's given you life, not that fear, not that anxiety, not those thoughts of the past. The word conscious means you're aware of the present. If you start to think about something outside of the present, you're not conscious. You have to think about the thoughts that take you away from being present and start to eliminate those thoughts. The minute you hear a thought or a sound that distracts you from being present, you pull yourself back to the present. It's not something that you do one time and it's solved. You have to continuously do it. The reality is there's nothing happening around you until you identify it. There's absolutely nothing in your environment until you put it there, until you give it a name. Your reality has to change, and the only way it changes is by you identifying what's not real in that reality. And what's not real in that reality is anything that sustains life without you giving it life, without you giving it attention, without you giving it a name, without you believing that it has a presence. When you're a child, you pay attention to the emotions on the inside of you, the senses that are around you on the inside. When you have an experience that takes you out of that awareness, you identify it as some kind of event with an emotional attachment, and that usually comes with some kind of pain that you identify. From that point on in your life, you start looking for some kind of cause that has produced that discomfort. You identify it as a pain, and then you start looking for it. Out of all the possibilities God gives us every day, we start trying to protect ourselves from that event ever happening again. So we're not conscious anymore. We're thinking about something that we're trying to protect ourselves against that happened a long time ago. That's not consciousness. Being conscious means your personality changes. Your personal reality must change. That's how you start to change your condition.